As the fighting between Russia and Ukraine persists, Ukrainians continue to flock to neighbouring Poland in search of safety. The exodus has been described as the largest refugee movement in Europe since the end of World War II. To get a picture of how dire the situation is, eNCA senior reporter Siphamandla Goge joins me now. He has just arrived at the Ukrainian border. Siphamandla, I'm sure that the images will speak for themselves, but tell us how dire the situation is where you are and how desperate people are to get out and get into Poland.
Well, as the sun sets here at the medical border between the Ukraine and Poland, more and more refugees are arriving at the border trying to cross to Poland. They are fleeing the war-torn Ukraine and they are trying to save their lives. It's getting dire and dire. The situation is really bad. It's tragic to see what is happening here. Women, children and elderly men are the only ones who are able and who are allowed to leave the Ukraine. All those who remain behind have to fight to defend their country. Here at the Polish border or at the border between the Ukraine and Poland, more and more people are arriving. Volunteers are telling us that every minute there is a bus arriving and thousands of people keep on flocking to Poland, which has accepted the highest number of refugees. I'm going to ask my colleague Joe Komane just to give you a panning shot of visuals here to see how dire the situation is. Children, women and elderly men are the ones who have made this long and cold journey to cross the border to come to Poland. Temperatures are dropping. It's getting really cold, and these refugees that you see, they are only seeking shelter for now after traveling for hours trying to flee the Ukraine. Now that they are in Poland, they have crossed. The most important thing is to get a warm meal and to get shelter. Tomorrow morning or this evening, others are not done. They will continue with their onward journeys as they go to a number of cities and towns across Poland. Earlier on, we were at the Polish capital, Warsaw, and we saw thousands of people there camped in train stations. They are utilizing that as their accommodation for now because others are camping there waiting to see how things will develop back home. They have a hope that they will be able to go back home. Others are saying they want to start from scratch, just basically start their lives here in Poland because they don't have a choice really. Everything they have had in the past has been destroyed. Families have been separated. Earlier on, I spoke to a lady who's from the Ukraine who told me that she left behind her husband and the eldest son because the eldest son is over 16 years old, so he has to remain in the Ukraine to fight. The only thing she was able to get out of the Ukraine was her mother and the youngest son. She was telling us that she's not sure whether she will be able to see her husband and the son again. So that talks to the issue of how desperate people are and how confused, how hurt people are, and they are trying to make the best out of this situation now that they have arrived in Poland. In terms of the statistics from the United Nations, they are estimating that more than 2 million people have fled the Ukraine and more than 500,000 of those people have ended up here in Poland across the country. But Polish authorities are appealing to other neighboring countries to accept more refugees because they are saying they are getting overwhelmed. They are running out of space and resources to cater for these refugees that you see here. You need a number of medical personnel, a number of people to translate because all those who are making their way to Poland, they are different nationalities, not only from the Ukraine, and there are others from Italy, others from other countries as well, and all of them, they need help, they need assistance, and Polish authorities are appealing for more help. Basically, they need human and financial resources. A number of volunteers that are helping out across Poland are not enough to cater for the volumes and amount of refugees that keep on arriving here. ambulances also are playing a very critical role here, the medical staff, because most of the people who arrive here, they need different things, but most importantly, they need shelter, they also need medical supplies, and they need to be connected in order for them to be able to call back home and alert their loved ones that at least they were able to make it to the border. So those are the three main needs right now that many people that were spoken to say to us they need. They say they need shelter, they need medical supplies, they need cell phones and SIM cards so that they can call back home.
Certainly, Siphamandla, I think you've really brought the reality of what's going on in Poland and at the Ukrainian border to our viewers and here back home. But I just want to ask you lastly, Siphamandla, you've mentioned the overwhelming pressure, if I can call it that, that the volunteers are facing at the moment with this influx of people coming from Ukraine. I wonder what the volunteers have perhaps told you, if you've managed to speak to any of them, and whether or not they have received any support from other countries perhaps, or from their governments, to say they are not dealing, they need more help. I remember I did an interview last week from the World Health Organization that said healthcare facilities, hospitals, clinics had been targeted in Ukraine, and that was causing a massive, massive problem for people that are in desperate need of healthcare. So I'm sure that is now trickling into Poland as well.
Indeed, I've spoken to a number of volunteers here. I think one of them is from the UK. He flew all the way, from London to come to Poland to assist. I've also spoken to some volunteers from Denmark who have come here to help. But interestingly, I had a conversation with one volunteer who's originally from the Ukraine, who is now based in London, the United Kingdom. He was telling me that basically what is happening here is devastating. They are calling for more help. They are calling on other countries to send in more human and financial resources, at least if they are unable to absorb a number of people that are fleeing the Ukraine. They are asking that those people must come here to assist so that they will be able to get more help, because they need human resources in terms of volunteers. They need more money to buy food, provide accommodation and shelter. And another very disappointing situation is developing here, because people are running out of accommodation, because nearest towns and cities, accommodation is pricey now. Of course, some people are seeing an opportunity to make more profit. So volunteers are calling on other countries. It's either to send in people to help or do the simple thing, accept more refugees from the Ukraine so that they can at least ease the burden from Poland. As you see, a number of buses, every minute there are buses that come in to pick up people here, and they will soon be making fire to keep warm because it's cold here. Others will sleep here, wait for tomorrow morning to get their tent so that they can board those buses and go to various cities across Poland. So the major concern right now is that Poland is unable to cope, or at least is coping for now, but moving forward the country will not be able to cope because numbers keep on increasing by thousands, and there are already more than 500,000 people who are here unbudgeted for, they were not planned for. So authorities are saying they are running out of public spaces to accommodate them. As you see, new arrivals here, women and children making their way into Poland as we speak, Heidi.
Certainly, Siphamandla Goge out in Poland for us. Truly devastating to see those visuals of people really just trying to find a way to make it work, and of course the volunteers helping as much as possible. We thank our team out in Poland. That is Siphamandla Goge. Hopefully he keeps warm and safe.